Hey guys, this is John with HillCo. I wanted to introduce you to a couple of new honey filtration options that we have. We have the jumbo honey strainer here on the left side, and then our 5-gallon honey filtering and bottling tank. Wanted to introduce these things to you because if you're like me, sometimes you have a situation like this where you're straining out of your extractor. Is a common way to do it. You're straining out of you're draining out of your honey extractor. You're draining into a common stainless steel double sieve like this, then into your bucket, or in some cases, some people use we sell these plastic 600 or 400 or 200 micron honey strainers that also fit into your bucket. But basically the idea is you're draining out of your extractor, you're draining through the strainer of whatever you're using, and into the bucket, and at the end of the day, when you're done, your bucket of honey here should be ready to bottle. That's how it works in a perfect world. However, if you're like me, sometimes, depending on what size extractor you're using, or depending on how you've uncapped, or just for various reasons, that strainer there will not keep up with the flow of honey coming out of the extractor. So your strainer is plugging up, and your honey's still flowing out of the extractor, and you're scurrying around trying to figure out what in the world to do. And it can become a real bottleneck if that strainer is not keeping up with the flow of honey coming out of your extractor. So I've had this problem. I think a lot of people have had this problem, and so I looked around to say, okay, what can we do to make this problem a little bit better? So we came out with these two new products I just showed you here, the jumbo strainer and the 5-gallon honey filtering bottling tank. So this is the strainer I just showed you in the 5-gallon bucket. This is the more common small stainless steel strainer. It fits nicely into a bucket. Again, works really well in a perfect world. If your extractor's not pouring out too quickly, you've uncapped perfectly, there's no contaminants in your honey, it'll all flow through just real swell. However, that's not often the case. So this jumbo honey strainer just has a lot more filtration surface area here. It's about 6 inches tall, as you can see, significantly taller than the standard one on the left. And they still use the same two-stage setup where you got your coarser screen here, and then you have your finer double screen inside. As you can see, it's screened on the sides of the strainer. On the bottom, you just have a lot more screen to go through, which means your filtering process will be more efficient. Now, the drawback to this is that because of the height of this strainer, it will not fit under your extractor and strain into a bucket typically, because your extractor just isn't tall enough for that additional height. So what I'm suggesting here with using one of these two filtration options here is that you just pretty much skip trying to filter out of the extractor entirely. If you're having this issue I'm talking about, this bottleneck, consider just skipping that filtration out of the extractor entirely. Just drain directly into a bucket. And if you got a real coarse screen or something, you want to run it through as you go into your bucket to get out the dead bees and the biggest particles and biggest contaminants. That's fine. Do that. But then mostly just drain directly into your bucket. Leave your bucket set for a couple days, and over time, that some of those impurities, those contaminants will rise to the top, like your dead bees, again, your bits of wax, things like that, to where after a day or two, you can take a ladle or something and scoop a lot of that off there, which would make your whole filtration process a lot easier. And then you can consider pouring your honey through one of these two pieces here. So just again, this fits over a 5-gallon bucket, just like you saw on this strainer. And so you take your bucket full of honey, put an empty bucket underneath this guy, pour honey into here, and it's going to strain out. So again, a lot more efficient. You also have more time because your extractor's not running. You're not trying to keep up with the extractor. So just something to think about there. And then this honey tank is a similar concept for that, post-extracting filtration, we'll call it. This guy has a nice little 5-gallon can here, 5-gallon food-grade stainless, type 304 stainless tank. Nice strong handles on here. You have 3 latches that hold the lid down securely. The lid has a gasket to give you a nice tight seal against the rim there to keep contaminants out of your honey. And then inside is where the magic happens. So we have these little tracks welded into the tank, and you have your two-stage filtration is inside the tank. So first you have your coarser filter, kind of like we have on these guys, and then you have your final straining, your double screen in here. So you pour into this big opening here on this half of the tank, and then it goes through stage 1, through stage 2, and then over here, and you can see down the bottom there is your honey gate. So a pretty slick setup. Again, another option similar to this, but it's built into a bottling tank, into a storage tank. And so again, you're just pouring unfiltered honey in, and filtered honey comes out. So anyway, something else to consider, another tool in your toolbox potentially to help you overcome if you're having an issue with a bottleneck in your honey straining. This is two ways I should say, to help overcome that. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.